let's just talk about what is going on at Manchester United right now. After a 3-0 loss to your bitter rivals on a day which was incredibly sentimentally important to you, it's not the time to make a knee-jerk decision. It's not the time to have a reaction which, frankly, wouldn't do the club justice in the long term. And part of the whole thing at Manchester United at the moment is just keep the momentum of a huge institution rolling along. That is clearly some of the thinking going on at the very top level of Manchester United right now. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about why you shouldn't sack Erik ten Hag right now, but why a lot of people will be calling for it, and why putting the cart before the horse, saying that your illness is the cause of your illness, is kind of a weird thing to do. Welcome back to Laurence McKenna channel, by the way. Broadly, I want to talk about Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag was a manager who came in with a great reputation. He came in with a CV which showed that he had a level of pedigree that, if given the right tools at a big institution, he would be able to enact something which looked like success. And broadly, when he first came in, I think we saw most, if not all, of the signs of a promising manager who could turn things around. Since then, Erik ten Hag has been forced into a series of decisions which have been compromises on his behalf, but mainly because of other people's poor decision-making in the lead up to him becoming manager and vice versa. And that has compromised what is now the Erik ten Hag project. That doesn't mean necessarily that you cannot therefore salvage what is going on. I don't even know if it's about salvaging it. I think it's about just continuing on with Erik ten Hag, but we'll get to that in a second. Erik ten Hag is fundamentally a good manager. You can see from a lot of the decisions that he has made in his time at Manchester United, prioritising certain positions, bringing in certain kinds of leaders, trying to unify the club, trying to say the right things, that he knows what it is that brings a club together. But there's only so long that when you say meaningful things and then you have those things undermined by acts of leadership, sales which you cannot control, transitions of power in sporting terms and in club financial terms, that you don't know how long that's going to last. What, 5, 10, longer amounts of years? And then managing your team in a time of great change for a club, and then you being blamed for that, must be incredibly hard. These are all outside factors that I'd imagine there will be other managers who would be able to cocoon their side from that, or make an us against the club world type mentality, right? But we both know that if Erik ten Hag had done that, that would cut his tenure short at Manchester United by a minimum of 5 years. If you create these mentalities, these incredibly bonded periods amongst humans, you're only going to fuel your own downfall at a faster rate. There are very few managers that make it beyond that period, burn so brightly, Jose Mourinho, for instance, and then do continue at the club. Do you know what I mean by that? Because Erik ten Hag never should have had to make his management and make his management style about the people immediately above him. It should never be at odds with those other people or the world or anywhere else. This is Manchester United we're talking about here. This is a club that is an institution in English football and has made itself an institution over the past 30 years through, in no small part, the effort of Sir Alex Ferguson. And he was a huge linchpin in holding that club together. He was the man today who wrote the eulogy in the programme to obviously the Manchester United fans for Sir Bobby Charlton. There was a great story in this programme, which is about when Sir Bobby Charlton helped Sir Alex Ferguson to become Manchester United manager. Sir Alex Ferguson was at Dundee, and the Manchester United cohort went up to meet him and find out what it was that he would have done with the club had he taken charge. And he said, I will build on the consolidation of young talent, do similar to what I've tried to do here, and make a club which has an ethos, make a club which has values that we can build around. Apparently in that meeting then, Sir Bobby Charlton nudged one of the people in the group and was favourable, should we say, to Sir Alex Ferguson, saying that is what we need, this is what we need at the club. And that is what Manchester United was reminded of. That is what Manchester United invested in for 20 years. They built the entire media network that they have now on the work and the shoulders of the great men who had thought far enough ahead to plant seeds of trees that they would never see the fruit from. Thankfully, Sir Bobby Charlton saw a lot of that fruit. Thankfully, he got a lot of the flowers that he deserved. You can always give more flowers to greats, but you get what I'm saying. He was a great English footballer, if not one of the best, if not the best. There are a couple in there, but he's the best. So then the club gets bought, and they then turn into some sort of a tailspin post Sir Alex Ferguson, where just a series of poor decisions, a series of piecemeal compromises by every manager, despite immediate manager bumps, means that the club is inexorably in a decline, which you can, obviously being at the top, you can only decline. But part of the weird thing is, because they stayed still, it looks more like a decline. There is a chart at the moment in the Premier League of all the different positions, right? If Manchester United just remain level and everyone else improves, City, Liverpool, Newcastle, all these different big clubs, right? Don't want to pick Newcastle, Arsenal, right? You are going to look as if you're declining, because on the chart, your stats begin to go down. They still have, a global fan base. They still have all these things. They still have a great fan base. They still have a lot of people who are invested. But what is going on the pitch at the moment is a joke at Manchester United and should not be happening. They were outplayed serially because Erik ten Hag has been forced into making pragmatic decisions due to A, injuries within the team, which again are probably not his fault. It's down to years and years of switching and changing methods of maintaining player health, rather than Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag is forced into playing players longer than he needs to, into making compromises where, hey, it would be lovely to play these players regularly, but should we really be playing aging players more regularly? No wonder when you have aging but experienced players within the team, do you have an issue around injuries? He then has a summer where when he tries to clear house, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, all these players that you would imagine and you knew he wanted to move on because Manchester United put these players out to market, he then had to make a series of probably compromises, but also cycle back on some of these things. Not to say that he didn't want to sell them. It's not to say that he's being humiliated. But if you have then to put Harry Maguire back in the team after very publicly trying to sell him, you cannot tell me that that is a good thing for your power in the squad. You cannot tell me that at any point, if you undermine a manager like that and say, your decision is a decision, but we're not going to do it, and actually, here's the thing, we can't back you to do it. And do you know why? Because we don't have the power to get rid of Harry Maguire from this club. Do you know why? Because we handed him a long-term contract. Because we made him captain of the club. Because we did all these things. Because we paid a stupid amount of money for him in the first place when there were so many other people on the market. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka, all these other players. Good, decent players. But players at Manchester United? Give me a break. I'm sure there's some Manchester United fans who are watching this and going, well, it is Erik ten Hag out. And I can make an argument for getting rid of Erik ten Hag. He has made a series of compromises, which arguably he wouldn't want to make as a manager. It looks as if he doesn't even want to be there at the moment. And that is not great, obviously, as a manager. But the pragmatism that he has shown has not worked. But this pragmatism is not Erik ten Hag football. The football you're asking him to play is not the football you brought him in to play. And the reason he's having to play it is not his fault, it is yours. Now, we can divert and say, hey, well, actually, what's weird about this is he had a go at Sancho. So if Sancho is in the side, Manchester United will be winning right now. He ostracised Harry Maguire for a while. Or if Harry Maguire is in top form, Manchester United will be top of the league, mate. There are people who are briefing against Erik ten Hag at the moment, and that weakens his decisions and weakens his public image. It also weakens his position within the team. And you can't really have that. You need to lock those kind of people out. But frankly, it's insane to say that Erik ten Hag should no longer be at Manchester United and think that that is going to change anything in the long run. There are no other good managers on the market for Manchester United right now. There are no managers. We've just seen, by the way, that when a good manager with good energy, with the right message, with the right ideas comes in at Manchester United, they still get worn down over time because their decisions are serially undermined. So don't tell me that it's about bringing in another manager and reinvigorating the squad yet again. Manchester United 9.0 post Sir Alex Ferguson isn't the thing that you're looking at here. Now, maybe they're keeping him because they know if they can make it to the period when Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in and takes sporting control, backs him 100% publicly, then the players know then, right, we've drawn a line under this, there's no going back from Erik ten Hag being in this side, because clearly some of them have down tools at this point. Clearly, some of them are not enacting what it is that he needs them to do. If Haaland is open, and I mean wide open, in the box, you have a problem. If every time that Onana needs to make an incredible save, we're like, oh, incredible save, how did that remain out? That's not a good thing for you. Every club has been through it. Every club has been through this banter era, but you've got to clear house, you've got to bring an imaginative at you back, and you've got to be patient with that process. It's not to say that Scott McTominay is not a good player. It's not to say Harry Maguire is not a good player. It's not to say Sancho won't thrive somewhere else, though at the moment there are people within the industry who are doubting what it is, who are doubting Jadon Sancho, frankly. And frankly, there are too many people with too many close investments in Manchester United because they want their little source, because it's, oh, well, someone at the club told me this. I've got this number of the player, and the player told me this thing and this thing. That's journalism, sure. But journalism is actually evaluating the things that are going on. And do you know part of the issue now? The players are powerful men in themselves. The players are people who, I get it, like, you don't want to have mental health problems. You don't want to have stress within your life. But you hold a privileged position within society, and if you choose to brief against Erik ten Hag, if you choose to, just be publicly against the institution that pays your wages, there are going to be some fallout from those situations. There's going to be some consequences of that. Undermining the project of Manchester United it might help a player's career, but it doesn't help the fans. And I think that's what a lot of people forget here. Like, we've kind of gotten to a point where people feel a little bit like the fans and the players are a little bit like the fans and the players disconnected, a lot a bit like the fans and the players disconnected. And what comes with that is a series of disconnections from the players because the players feel, well, I can't speak to the fans because the fans hate me. The club don't really help in any way to bridge that gap because they don't want to upset the players and they want to keep their main asset happy and they don't want the players to overthink or do any of those kind of things, so you want them to play well. But then the fans become ostracised. And suddenly the fans become an issue. Or, oh, well, it's the fans who don't like the Glazers. So that's the real issue here, is it's the fans that don't like the Glazers. Right. Sorry, my bad. Tactically, it's not even worth evaluating Erik ten Hag, though I probably will in a future video. It's insane to say that Erik ten Hag is responsible for what happened there at Manchester United today. It was humiliating, sure, but thinking that he's even marginally to blame for Man City being 10 times better is insane to me. That back line that he was forced to field, by the way, so slow, so out of touch. It's not like that's his... I get it, like, you could say, like, oh, well, maybe bring through a youth player. We could name I've got knowledge, I can name 5 youth players that Manchester United should play. Oh, you want them to be ripped apart in the same way as these guys were, do you? You want them to have a public humiliation at the hands of the best team in the league, basically. Good. Yeah, that's a good idea. There are loads of people who've got these solutions at Manchester United. My solution, my idea, would be back Erik ten Hag very publicly, give him the resource in January to go out there and back again, get to next summer, just say whatever happens to Manchester United this season, we are riding through with you, or we are ride or Tag with you, and that's it. To say at any point that the Erik ten Hag experiment has gone wrong is probably an understatement, but is also a gross misjudgment of what the real issue is at the club. The club is currently subject to an ownership who don't help it. So look at the ownership. I've broken this down time after time on my channel, but look at the ownership. Look at what is going on. Van Gaal failed. Mourinho failed. Solskjaer failed. I know that we can do all this thing about stats, about, oh, Solskjaer had a better win record, or Mourinho had this, or Van Gaal had this. That's not the point. If you're trying to compare these things in the short term with the long-term gain of the club, you're missing the point of what is going on at Manchester United right now. Thinking that winning this season means you will win for the next 10 seasons is not true. It's a good indicator of where you are on your way to, but thinking that a short-term gain like being back in the Champions League and therefore the money and all the things that come with that is good, miss me with all that, man. There are people who are underserving Manchester United right now. There are people with really basic analysis, and I get it, Manchester United are in crisis. But to say that that is Erik Ten Hag's responsibility is mad. There are players shaking their head out there. There are players who are angry. There are players who are clearly disenfranchised. I'd love to know what your comments are in the comments below. Let me know, and I'll chat to you guys again in a little while. Much love. Bye. It's just insane.